Thanks for joining me at Basement Apartment DIY. I'm excited about today's video, which is an interview I did with local real estate investor Graden Ostler, who specializes in duplexes and triplexes, and he also rents the basement of his beautiful home. This is Basement Apartment DIY, the channel where I show what other basement apartment owners are doing and give tips and tricks on how to prepare and rent your own basement. Thanks again for watching, and subscribe if you're interested in learning more about basement apartments. I found some great takeaways from this interview. The first is that Graden gets excellent tenants because of how his apartments look and how he advertises. Graden strives to finish his units to a better level than the competition, and then he carefully stages and photographs. By doing this, he gets a lot of applicants to pick from. This kind of technique would also work well in a slow market where it's hard to find good applicants. Right now, you may not be able to finish or stage to this level, but it's always a good idea to put your best foot forward, and professional photography is an effective way of doing this. The second thing I learned is that Graden selects renters from a niche that he's comfortable with. His units are located near BYU, which attracts a lot of serious students. This provides a great pool of people from which Graden carefully selects his tenants. These are high-quality people, even if they only stay a year or two. By the way, 40 years ago, my grandmother used a similar technique by advertising at the local law school. The third thing I learned is that Graden suggested that basement apartments are one of the best places to start a real estate investing career. Graden himself lived in the upstairs and rented out the basement of his first duplex. And over the last 8 years, he has steadily grown his rental portfolio. He has 8 units plus his basement apartment. With a little luck and determination, you could do the very same thing. For the past 2 years, Graden has been applying what he has learned as an investor by working as a real estate agent with Keller Williams in Orem. If you're looking for a good agent in the Utah County area, please feel free to contact him. And now for the interview with real estate investor Graden Ostler. How many years have you owned? When did you buy your first rental property?
Yeah, my wife and I, we started out just over 10 years ago. We bought a small single-family home in Springville. We lived in it and did some renovations to it while we were living there. And, a couple years later, we decided to move. And instead of selling it, we rented it out.
Okay.
So we moved into a different place in Provo. We bought our first duplex, and that rent money from our vacating residence there in Springville was, it further helped us qualify for this new duplex.
So then you owned 3 properties.
Yeah, at that point we had 3 units, I guess, and when we bought the place, there was already a tenant renting out the basement, so it helped out that way too.
Where were you at when you bought your first duplex? What was your mindset?
We just liked real estate. My wife and I, we like to take on projects. She's pretty handy, and we saw the potential. We just kind of wanted to do it. And that was when we bought our first duplex, maybe 7-8 years ago. It wasn't as common or as trendy. Real estate investing or house hacking was not a buzzword. But we went ahead and bought the duplex. We saw the value in the investment. It wasn't very easy at the time. We scraped together everything we could. We barely were able to afford it. But yeah, here now, 8 years later, it was definitely a great investment.
What was it like when you got your first renters? Was that an odd experience, or was it a little bit scary? And what have you learned since then?
Yeah, good question. We just became landlords pretty quick. Like I mentioned, our first experience was not finding a tenant, but yet just managing the one that we acquired upon the purchase. And he actually still lives there. So he's been there with us renting for 8 years or so. Over the years, we haven't really put any money into his property. We have not upgraded the kitchen or anything, but yet over the years we've raised the rent and just, charging him a competitive, fair market value, but it just goes up and up and up. And obviously, we fixed our mortgage payment with the bank. That does not go up, and that's kind of one of the benefits of rent, hedging yourself against inflation. These rent rates are going to go up, but yet the mortgage doesn't.
So have you had any, how many tenants would you say you've had over the years? Maybe a couple of dozen, or?
Yeah, probably, 20 or 30.
How many of them would you say have been really pretty good? How many you kind of didn't like, and did you have any terrible ones?
Yeah, good question. I think Provo-Orem, Utah County is such a great rental market because we have really good people here. I would be a little bit more concerned if I had rentals in other parts of the country. For us, we have focused on young students, particularly student couples. And they're starting off their married life, putting their best foot forward.
Right.
And we capture that. So anyway, we get really good tenants. People, some have stayed with us for a long time. Like I mentioned, our first duplex tenant.
Yeah, that's awesome. 7 or 8 years or something.
8 or so years. But other than that, we find people who pay top dollar because our units are quite nice compared to the competition. And, these people are buying homes after they rent from us. They're not necessarily the perpetual renter. But we've had really good experience.
I did notice, and I'll show you some pictures of this. He really does. They do a good job fixing up their units. And your wife said you even stage your units and have professional photography when you're renting it.
Yeah, we think that's important. We even did a videography of the place, and you're able to share that with any prospective tenant. I think it's powerful.
A couple of YouTubers that I like have said that good pictures are important because, even if people aren't quite as rational as you think, even if you have a nice apartment, they'll pass over that and look for, there's a better chance of getting more traffic with good pictures.
Exactly. You gotta, attract those eyeballs from everyone online. So,
do you have a formal screening method? I mean, with new couples, they're not going to have, someone might not even have much of a credit history. What do you do for background checks?
Facebook is really important. We also call references and employment history, and
so you do call those. What are you looking for in a?
Well, just job history, and we verify income, and we meet the people. Of course, people can always pull the wool over your eyes, but my wife and I, we're pretty good judges of character, we feel, and we have a lot of applicants come through, and we select the one that kind of has, standout credentials as far as references, and we just go from there.
That's good. Let's see. Let's move on to renovations. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody who doesn't have, just a typical family, never done a renovation. Say they want to rent their basement. May or may not be finished, but they'll need at least a big overhaul to rent it. What would you tell them about finding good contractors?
Yeah, that's important.
Have you done a lot of do-it-yourself, or have you?
You know, early on, I'm quite handy. I have worked for a restoration company in the past, and I learned a lot of things as far as drywall, painting, a little bit of finish work, baseboard casing, and that's helped. As far as repairs and remodel and, you know, contractors, we have used quite a few along the way over the years, and some have been good, some have been great, and some have been terrible. But KSL is a good reference. If you're really wanting to go cheap, there's subcontractors that you can hire out. You get tons of bids. You know, these people are showing up for free and giving you estimates, and you're learning a whole lot about the process.
So you get a lot. You get, like they say, get 3 bids.
Yeah.
And you like to.
And see, it's unfortunate. You know, these guys show up and they expect to get the job, and, you know, maybe they're not the cheapest, but you get 6 bids, and all of a sudden you're an expert on the process, and then you hire someone to get the job done.
Wow. My hat's off to you. 5 or 6 bids. That's
Yeah.
a lot of work, and a lot of people would be.
That's true.
I would be intimidated about calling, you know, that many people, but I think that's smart.
Yeah, and it's nice. People, you know, they want to earn your business. There's other ways to do it. You could hire a contractor and just cut them a check, and they would handle everything. But where,
So you've done a lot of your own contracting.
yeah,
You act kind of as the general contractor.
yeah, I might consider myself a general contractor for my own stuff. Also, I've worked alongside with some of these subcontractors, even kind of discounting their rate as well, you know, giving me some credit for the work that I do. So it's been creative.
That's pretty awesome. I've done that too. I had a neighbor that was like kind of an old retired handyman, done $1 million. So he worked for me pretty cheap, and then showed me how to do stuff too. And so that worked out pretty well. So I think that's all I had for you, Graden. Anything else? Someone that's starting out, anything else you want to tell them? I think we covered quite a bit.
Well, yeah, if this was if you're considering creating a rental in your own house, maybe you've lived there for 5 years, but you want to just start out, I think becoming a landlord, starting your investing journey is best done with your own house. That way you get some more experience with it. See if you like it. You know, build that sweat equity, increase the value of your home with the basement rental, get some experience with tenants, and see if you like it, and you know, move on to the next one. Sell your place or rent it out, and then that will catapult you into your next rental, your next investment.
So this has been, thank you for listening. This has been Graden Ostler with Keller Williams Westfield. Thank you again for listening. Again, that was Graden Ostler with Keller Williams Real Estate, and I want to thank him one more time. And again, if you're doing your own basement apartment and this is helpful to you, please subscribe and like the videos. And good luck with your project. This has been Paul with Basement Apartment DIY. Thanks very much.